had another resource that was supposed to join us today to do the budgeting and planning session for us today, and she had a emergency with her daughter. So we'll probably we'll have to reconnect for that portion of it, but I didn't want to cancel anything because I know the 100 piece is important as well.
Yeah, if I see that, we can. I've seen a video of the budgeting, and I don't know if it was like a 20-minute clip that was sent. So
yeah, I sent you that.
Talked about, yeah, I watched that, so I got a pretty good understanding there.
Okay, if you feel we need to do another session one-on-one for the budgeting and planning piece, I'd be more than happy to arrange it. But if you think you got what you needed out of that video, either way.
I think I'm okay. Just from the video, I think I got what I need out of there, and I forwarded them off to Kim in our office too.
Okay. Well, good. Well, thanks for joining today's call. I have Johnny Woodward. He's my Sage 100 field sales engineer. Has over 25 years experience in the 100 product, both as an end user and as our engineer here at Sage. So there's not much that he hasn't seen out there in the marketplace in terms of how to use the product. So he's very instrumental in these sessions for us. And then I also have Ron Davis, president of IT Works. I work with him quite a bit on the 100 implementation side. So I thought it was important to bring him to the call as well. I put together a brief agenda of what I think you're going to need to see. John usually starts out with an overview of 100. Then we can kind of dive right into the APAR and GL modules, and then cover purchase ordering, invoicing, vendors, bank rec, security permissions, and then kind of cover reports. Does that sound okay for an agenda for you?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. John, I'll go ahead and make you the presenter.
All right, let me just share here. All right. Can you confirm, you should be seeing Information Center. Can you confirm you're seeing my screen?
Yes, I am.
All right. Now, as Brian mentioned, I like to kind of start to give you kind of the lay of the land, if you will, kind of how Sage 100 is laid out, how to get around. Now, the first thing I want to point out is what we're looking at. I logged in with a username and password. What we're looking at is what we call the Sage Business Desktop. Now, I have all the modules installed. So one thing to point out is if you're not needing manufacturing or barcoding, you won't need, you're only going to see the modules that have been installed. Another thing I'll point out, let me just make a quick change. I'm logged in as a system admin now, so my permissions give me access to everything. I'm going to change my user to an accounting user here real quick. And what you'll notice is security is actually going to act as a filter to what I see. So when I logged in as my accounting user, notice that list of modules got a lot smaller. So security will actually act as a filter to what a user see. They will only see the modules, the menus, and the task that they have permission to access. Any questions there?
No questions.
Okay. So let me just go ahead and get back into my sysadmin so I can see everything. Now, one of the things I believe in my notes, you have definitely multiple companies or entities that you're going to be tracking within Sage 100. Is that accurate?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay. So Library Master in Sage 100, I like to call it the control module. That's where I set up those companies. I set up security. I set up users. So under company maintenance, just to let you know, there's really no restriction. You'll have a 3-digit company code. So those can be numerical. They can be alphanumeric. I have 8 different companies in my database now. That's not the limit. So there's really no concern about the number of companies you can establish and track within Sage 100. We can definitely do that. Each company can have specific preferences and details associated with it. Now, after that, talk about in Sage 100, security is based on what we call role. So instead of having to go to each individual user and say this user has access to this and doesn't have access to that, you define roles that someone would perform for the company, accounting, controller, sysadmin, and you associate permissions with that job or role. And I can come in and say, just kind of en masse, they have access to everything in AP, or I can come in underneath and give them specific access to specific types of things under accounts payable. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and expand and go down to like specific, like a task like vendor maintenance. Now, typically a maintenance task like vendor maintenance, account, like GL account maintenance, customer maintenance, I can create, I can modify, I can delete. Now, you can just grant them access to everything, but if you have, maybe vendors have to be approved, so only certain users can create a vendor. I actually can expand that, and I have granularity underneath to say a user has the ability to create. Maybe it's a user who doesn't have that permission, so I could turn off the ability to create a new vendor for a certain user if you require, you know, a certain authority level to create a new vendor. So you have granularity under those tasks to say that the types of activities they can do when they're in a maintenance task. Questions there?
No questions.
Okay. Now, aside from that, once I create all the roles, when I go to the user, this is, you know, pretty straightforward. I'll give them a logon. I'll associate their name, assign a password to them, a user code, and you can see I can say I have the same role across every company, or I can have it granularity. In this company, I have this role. This company, I have this role. So that's, you know, pretty flexible as far as you don't have to do one size fits all. They have the same access per company. I can say no access in a company, or a specific role in a company, or all companies the same role. Now, another thing I'll point out here, the user code, that is kind of the stamp that will follow that user. If I go in and create a vendor, modify a vendor, enter an invoice, anything of that nature, my user code, or the user code, is going to be associated with that activity. So you'll be able to determine who did something because their user code is going to be stamped on that activity. Let's see.
Okay.
No, in the structure. So again, on the structure of the module. So there's different ways to get around the system. So I'm going to kind of show you like the old standard. Like if I go to AR as an example here, what I want to point out is kind of the module menu. So when I take AR, these are what we call the module menus. That structure is standard. So you're going to see the same kind of folders. Main, reports, period, and setup utilities is going to be in AP. It's going to be in GL. Now AP is going to have additions. AP also has a check printing and electronic payment, pre-note printing. GL has a budgets folder. So you may see some unique menus that don't exist anywhere else, but it's functionality that's only needed in a particular module. Now, under main is always going to have specific types of tasks. Maintenance, inquiry, and data entry is always going to be under the main folder for a module. So a user who works across multiple modules won't have to guess if they have a data entry function to do in a module. They won't have to try to figure out where to go. It's always going to be under main. Inquiry, data entry, maintenance are always going to be under the main folder. Now, to make it a little more convenient, maybe a user does one or two things from AR main, maybe one or two things from AP main. As they start to identify those things that they're using day in and day out all the time, they have the ability to flag those items as a favorite. So let's say that I am running a particular report. So let's just say I'm going to say this sales analysis by salesperson as a report that I run all the time. All I have to do is right click. With that right click, notice at the bottom I have add to favorites as an option. And before I make that selection, notice my focus on the left is still modules. As soon as I say add to favorites, it will open up my favorites menu and drop that new selection onto the bottom. And you'll notice I have already added things to my favorites menu, and I've actually organized my favorites in a way that makes sense to me by grouping customer things with customer things, PO and AP things, GL things kind of all together. So I can take this AR report and actually drop it into my already defined AR reports folder. Looks like I already have it there. That was a duplicate, so I can go ahead and remove that because I forgot I had already added it. So each user is able to essentially identify the things that they're using most frequently, drop them onto their favorites menu. Once it's on their favorites menu, they have the ability to kind of organize the favorites menu in a way that makes sense to them by inserting either folders of those little lines, and that's just a right-click, insert folder, insert separator, and then I can even rename that. If I have a particular nickname for something, if I wanted to shorten that to just say GL trial balance, I can say rename and go ahead and just make that just a little shorter.
Okay.
It doesn't affect it. Doesn't affect it on the main menu. It doesn't affect it for anybody else. It's just the way it'll appear on my favorites menu. Now, if there's something else that I wanted to pull over while I had this open, all I have to do now is just pull it over and drop it where I want it to be, since that's already open. So I can have that. Just pull it over there, and I'm going to go back to modules. All your maintenance, as far as renaming, moving things around, inserting folders, is always done by opening favorites at the lower pane, but I have the ability to have my favorites displayed in a tab across the top. So as I'm working throughout the day, I don't have to navigate between module menus now. Those things that I've identified as my favorites are setting at the top, waiting for the next time I need it. And if I use a folder as an example, you can see all I have to do is click the drop-down box and select that item from the folder. And it's not limited to reports. I just use reports as an example for my folders. Questions there?
No question.
Okay. Another tool that you have for getting around the system, we call a visual process flow. And in this case, you'll notice it's more based on functionality than a specific module. And I'll use, there's different templates for each kind of section here. So customer billing, invoice and receipt payment, that's essentially accounts receivable, invoicing, and payments. So when I choose this, what you're going to see is instead of that Windows Explorer folder-driven navigation, you'll get a visual map of the process, or a visual menu. In this case, AR invoice data entry, printing invoices, posting, applying payments, customer maintenance, various inquiries, various reports. This is not just a help screen. The text, label, and the buttons are linked to the task. So if I need to maintain a customer, coming down here and clicking this button will open accounts receivable, customer maintenance. Likewise, AR invoice data entry, cash receipts entry. So this gives your users a reference in the of the order in which things would occur, step 1, step 2, step 3, so they can tell how long of a process it's going to be, where they're at in that process, how many steps they have to go. And the great thing about these are we provide these templates for the basic processes. If you have a different process or need to do additional things, these can be modified to remove buttons that may not be used by a user and add buttons that would make it more convenient, because I can actually create a custom button to do something else that wasn't originally on that screen. I can even launch web pages from the visual process flows. Questions there?
No. No question.
Now I'm going to go ahead and leave this one open here. Now, another thing that comes with so let me ask you, as far as sending, are you sending invoices, customer, like AR invoices or statements out to customers, or do you pay vendors with ACH and send check remittance advice out to vendors or anything of that nature, purchase orders sent to vendors?
No, we're not really paying any vendors with ACH. And we do have some city ledger for our particular properties, but it's pretty limited. So
okay.
it's not a huge item from that standpoint.
Okay. So there's a module called Paperless Office. So what Paperless Office can do for you, you notice the different viewers. So what I can do is essentially anything I can print from a Sage 100 workstation to a printer, I have the ability to generate a PDF and save the PDF. So I don't have to print everything and put in a filing cabinet. And that goes from kind of depending on the type of document. So journals and registers, those are the accounting transactions. So as I'm entering and posting transactions, the associated paperwork to document that transaction was entered and posted into the Sage 100 system. Normally, again, I can print that and put that in a filing cabinet should that transaction be audited. Here's the transaction report for that. I can have those generate to PDF and be saved electronically. Now, in this case, I have my AP transactions, but this is kind of any of the accounting transactions, your daily transaction registers, check payment registers, invoice registers, cash receipts journals, bank reconciliation, GL transaction registers. So essentially any of those accounting transactions that are entered and posted, you can have that PDF be generated and saved as a record of that. So should you need to find something, instead of looking for in the filing cabinet, I can use electronic search capability, be able to search by the source journal, by the, the posting date, the user who would have created that. So I can, search for and find that electronically. So this functionality, as far as generating the PDF and saving a copy, is available for the, the accounting transactions, the journals and registers. As you process and close your period ends, the associated period end reports can be saved electronically as PDFs. Reports that you would like to have an archived copy of, you can actually print to PDF and have it saved electronically, so you can have an archived copy of maybe a general ledger trial balance report as of a certain date. You can have that and kind of saved, so you can pull it up if you need to. And then customers and vendor documents. So if you do, again, AR invoices or statements of that nature, you're able to have those generated and saved. So should a customer, you need to review what a statement looked like, or a customer needs a copy, you can have those archived. So it's just a matter of coming in, searching, finding what you're looking for, and then you can, have instant access to pull that up. Now, another part of this is delivery options. So if statements usually get delivered to specific contacts at a company, when I hit this, notice when I hit this electronic delivery button, it will automatically pull in email addresses. So at the customer level, that is coming from a place where I can go into the customer record and say, when I send this type of document, these are the contacts that get copied on that document. So as an example, those two contacts we just saw were defined as the statement recipients. In the customer record, I go to paperless, I go to statements, and then note email, and here's where those email addresses were coming from. So basically, as I am interfacing with customers, I can say, how would you like to receive this type of document? Who needs to be copied on that? So I can do hard copies, emails. Someone still wants a fax, I can send a fax, or combinations of different types. When I go to print those documents, to give you an idea, I don't have to print and scan. For example, statement printing here. So when I hit, notice this output option is right now it's hard copies, but I can change this to print PDF and electronic delivery. So let's say there's 20 different customers in this statement batch. What it's going to do is check the preference for each one. Where a hard copy is needed, it will generate a hard copy. Where an email is needed, it will generate the email with the statement attached. And the PDF option is creating that backup copy, creating the PDF and saving it to the customer viewer, so you can access it later. So this is automatically bundled. Now you have similar functionality for a vendor, and the vendor side, you can set up delivery instructions for issuing or delivering a purchase order, a return order, or check remittance advice to a vendor. Questions there?
No questions.
Okay. Now, some other things that come with the system. Let's see here. Another key thing, Visual Integrator is an import-export tool. So this can be utilized, honestly, it's probably going to be utilized in the beginning to implement the system. Importing your chart of accounts, your customers, your vendors, open invoices, and balance details. Going forward, after the implementation, this is a tool that you can use if there's another system that you're using, or you're getting information from a vendor, a customer, anything that you need to do, anything that I can manually do as far as a data entry function in Sage 100, GL transactions, AP invoices, payments, cash receipts, customer invoices. If there's another system that has that information that you need to get into Sage 100, I can import that information versus having to key it into the system. So what I can use this tool is to build an import job. And in that import job, you can kind of see I have different things going on here. As an example, this is a job that I already have defined where I'm mapping to, I believe, an Excel file. So the information I'm going to be pulling from is in an Excel spreadsheet. I can do CSV, tab delimited, comma delimited, ODBC data sources. Now, after defining the job, the key thing here is I tell Sage 100 it's a mapping process. So this is where I can tell Sage 100 where to find information in that source file, in this case, the Excel spreadsheet, where, I would find the terms code is going to be in column 9 for length of 2, where to find information in that spreadsheet so it knows where to put it when it's imported into Sage 100. Once these jobs are configured, they can be used over and over again. So you don't have to build a job for every time you need to import. As long as the data file source is always formatted the same way, I can continue to use the job over and over and over again, and even schedule the job to run automatically. I don't have to trigger the job manually. I can schedule the job to run on a predefined schedule. Questions?
No, I guess, well, maybe one question there. So that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about was, are we going to be able to pull the information from our property management systems, being the OnQ system, the Choice Advantage system that we use with our different brands, and pull those nightly numbers in? And it sounds like this allows us to.
Yeah, so do you know the format at which those systems can export data? Can they export to Excel? Okay, so that would be kind of a critical.
That I don't know.
That would be the critical thing to hone in on. What formats of data can be exported out? And even let me ask you, another option would be
talk to that system, right? So they would have to, like, that's what I guess I'm wondering is, have you worked with Hilton and OnQ before? And do you have any other clients doing that? Because I heard they're pretty challenging as far as like trying to get data out of their systems into another system. Like there's a lot of, I guess, firewalls or safety procedures in there.
Ron, I don't know if I mean, in my role, I don't have a lot of experience with that. Ron, I don't know if you have any customers that may have had that.
I had a client about 3 years ago that it was a Hilton property, and they used Visual Integrator to export out of a system. I guess it was a separate or third party they were using. But as long as you can export that data, like John was saying, via Excel, CSV, comma delimited, some of those formats, which if it's a current system, the chance of it exporting in one of those 3 ways or even more is not uncommon.
Okay. All right. So I'll dig into this and how we can, what forms can be exported out, and then I can do the follow-up question from that.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see ASCII, delimited, DBase, Lotus, Excel, and if that system, now this may be what they wouldn't allow. ODBC is a direct connection to the database. They probably wouldn't allow that if you don't own that database. That may be where they wouldn't, but I don't know why you couldn't get an exported, like an Excel spreadsheet with data that we could map to. So just, kind of keep in mind, CSV, ASCII, delimited, DBase, Lotus, or Excel, if they can provide data in any of those formats, we can map to that file and import.
Okay.
And then I can go back to Library Master, and if that can be automated, like every day at a certain time, they send that file to you, and that file gets put in a certain place, I can schedule the import job to run automatically at a certain time, like say, half hour or an hour after that data file is supposed to be uploaded to that specific location. So you can kind of automate those imports. Any other questions here?
Nope. That's the one question I had.
Okay. Let's see here. Now, let me ask you, on the chart of accounts, I just want to touch base on GL here real quick. I know you have the multiple entities. Is the chart of accounts the same for every entity, or are they different per entity?
They're pretty much the same. There could be one or two differences amongst the group, and not differences as a whole. So the chart of accounts are the same, but not every entity uses all the line items on the chart of accounts. So,
okay.
But they're the same.
No, I mean, they don't. There's no requirement that the chart of accounts has to be the same. It's just, implementation might be a lot easier if the chart of account structure is the same across all the companies. It may be a little.
No, they are. That part would be. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I want to kind of.
That part wouldn't be different.
Okay, so let me show you. I'm going to show you, and what I'm showing you is how my demo data is configured. It's not the only way. So in Sage 100, in my demo company, you see here my chart of accounts, my account number structure is set up with 3 segments. I'm a main account, second segment representing department, and third segment representing location. Again, this is just my demo data. You can have 1 segment, you have 2 segments, 3 as you see here. Sage 100 can support up to 32 characters with up to 10 segments. So it can have a much more complex structure than what you're seeing here. Again, this is just kind of the example. So any questions on?
No.
Okay. Now, beyond that, again, you would come in, main account maintenance and setting up those main accounts. Sub-accounts is where I kind of do the mapping to say segment 1, segment 2, segment 3, what it represents, and then I can come in and define, the specific location, the sub-account exact number, and the description for that specific, sub-account. Now, in Sage 100, the accounts, account maintenance is where I set up the account. If you know the account number, you can come here and just type it in. I'm going to use inventory as an example. Let's say I know it starts with 115. I can always key in what I know and hit the magnifying glass or F2, and it gives me, it's like it begins with, show me every account that starts with what I knew. Now, I can always use the lookup and, based on what I know, let's say begins with, contains, let's say description, contains, I'll just say, so it'll show me every account that has scrap in the description. And that could be begins with, ends with, contains, is not equal to. So you can kind of use that any way and I have very limited columns, but I'm actually able to come in and customize the data and add more columns. So if there's more data would be helpful to find what you're looking for, it's pretty easy to come through and I'll just say add additional columns of data as search fields to help you find what you're looking for. Another option I have here is I can actually, if I know the description, I don't have to go to the lookup and say the description contains. I can actually start to type the description into the account number field. And as you can see, it kind of gives me that begins with filter. And then the more specific I get, the narrower the choice becomes. I get the essentially the description and the account number. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one in. Main tab. Group, category type, status, start, end date, cash flow type if applicable. You can enable and set up roll-up codes and have those available, displayable here. History, it's going to be my beginning balance, debits, credits, ending balance. There's a little toggle button over here. So we're going to see when I toggle this on, it's just going to give me the net change instead of the individual debits and credits. So let's just toggle on or off. Variance. Now, in this case, you'll notice you saw the Sage budgeting and planning is much more advanced. I can have budgets built right into the accounts, but these are very simple budgets compared to what you can do in Sage budgeting and planning. This is just kind of original revised budgets. So I can have that original budget, unlimited, budget revisions. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple here compared to budgeting and planning. Some tools here to select, clear, calculation wizards, but I have that ability to look at, a budget or revised budget amount versus activity. If it's an account that doesn't have a budget, so maybe I'm going to compare prior activity to the current year. Transactions will be all the transactions, and you have that ability to drill down to the source journal, see where that came from. And then there's, different, functionality. You see all these reversals. There's a function if, when I create a journal entry, I can have a reversing date automatically. added. If something needs to be reversed that didn't have one of those, this little button will actually create a reversing entry should that need to be reversed and it didn't have an automatic reversing date associated with it. So any questions on setting up the account or anything in the account maintenance screen?
No questions.
Okay. Okay. Now, if I need to do a general journal, it's pretty straightforward. I'll just come here to general journal entry. I will just pick the source journal. I'll just say bank rec as my source journal. Next entry number, all I have to do is say next. Here's where I can specify posting date. If this needs to be reversed out, I can go ahead and I'll just advance it 1 month and say I will reverse it next month. I can put a journal comment, and on the lines, pretty straightforward. I'm just going to expand this out so we can see all the detail here. I'm just going to pull in the account, debit amount, credit amount, pretty straightforward. Now, something with Sage 100, I want to point out, I'm going to hit accept, but that accept doesn't mean that that transaction is committed or posted yet. So you'll notice if I come back to this entry lookup, that I have multiple things setting in data entry that have not been committed or posted yet. So to get those posted, I will hit the printer icon. This is my chance to review that information. So I get the general journal entry. I'm going to preview this. So this is where I can kind of make sure the information is correct. And then I get this question. If I saw a mistake, I can say no, and that will remain in data entry. I can go back to data entry and make my corrections. If everything looked good and I wanted that updated, I'll say yes. Now, just to go back there where I had those entries setting there unposted, now when I go back to that, they're not there. They have been posted and committed. Some questions there?
No. No question.
All right. Now, also note, anytime you see the reports menu in Sage 100, I call these the canned or standard reports. So you're going to get a set of reports that come automatically with Sage 100 out of the box. All of the reports in this area in any of the reports menu, and including like invoices and statements, are generated and built with Crystal reports as the report writing tool. So I'll use trial balance as an example here. You have in the reporting interface, I can say, include this type of balance, exclude or include zero balances. I'm going to preview this here real quick, and we can get you a preview, a booklet with samples. So again, this is just kind of the default. Now, a lot of people, this might be great. You may want a different sort or different kind of formatting to this. We do provide the ability to modify that. So if I come back here, if I wanted to tweak that layout, I always have the ability to go to the designer. And what that's going to do is open up how that report is set up in Crystal. I could implement and apply changes to that report and save it as a custom version of the report. So those, you'll always kind of maintain that standard report, but if you make a change to it, you would save it and it would create a custom reports menu where you would access the custom version of that report. Any questions there?
No questions.
Now, financial reports, there are finance reports available here. So I can do balance sheet, statement of cash flows. Again, this is all based on Crystal. What I want to show you is I'm going to actually not use this as my financial report writer. You'll have access to Sage Intelligence reporting. And unlike the other reports, which are Crystal based, this reporting tool is an Excel-based report writer. So in general, what I found is that most accountants or accounting users are at least somewhat familiar with Excel, in most cases intermediate or expert level with Excel. So this gives you the ability, notice, I'm going to start with just financials and financial report designer. So this would be kind of the one by one, a financial statement per each entity that you're tracking. So I can create a financial statement per company. But notice I can expand this menu here, consolidated financial report designer. So I can do that one-off financial statement company by company. I also have the ability to use this tool to create consolidated financial reports across multiple companies. Questions?
No, I don't have questions on
Okay. Now, in this case, what you'll notice is when I launch this, there's different things. I have a BI tools add-in. I'm going to I always just kind of the same options are available. I just tend to gravitate to the task pane because it's sitting here on top. So if I want a balance sheet, I click the layout and it's going to generate that layout for me. And what's nice here, it's Excel, but Excel has been connected to Sage 100 through an ODBC data connection. Now, no data now, but as soon as I override the year to reflect where my demo data setting, data is pulled in automatically. Now, what's nice here, because it's Excel, I'm looking at summarized view of the categories, assets, liabilities, equity, total equity. I have the ability to expand now, so I can expand or contract. Even the ability, if I right click here, notice at the bottom drill down, I can drill down further. And depending on the specific transactions and where they came from, you may have the ability to drill down even further from there to the transaction level. I'm not set up for that in this particular report, but you can keep drilling down because it's an Excel report, has that ability to do so. You wouldn't have that ability in a Crystal report. Crystal's just to print something on a page. Questions here?
So on that type of reporting, you have the ability to, or maybe that's in the budgeting thing that I've seen on a separate deal that we talked about earlier, but the ability to have some actual, some forecast, and some budget on like a rolling 12 month.
So if this tool is primarily designed to report on the information in the GL, but if that information is in Sage Budgeting and Planning, you may have to purchase what they call a connector, and the connector gives you the ability to connect to additional databases. So we can double check, and Brian, this may be a question for Leanne, but I would assume that if I can get a connector, I could connect directly to Budgeting and Planning and use that as a source for reporting here as well.
That's exactly right. The connector allows you to pull from databases outside of 100. So whether it's budgeting and planning or even something else that you have on your desktop, you'll be able to pull in reports from that outside database.
Okay.
Now, inside, I didn't realize I closed that report. I'm going to run this one more time here. If you modifying a report is fairly easy. Let me just get this run again here real quick. I didn't realize I closed that out. I didn't intend to, so let me just regenerate it here real quick. You have the ability to, if you want to modify, again, just like I can with Crystal, I can modify that layout. So if the default layout for balance sheet isn't quite what I want, well, actually, let me go with income statement here, actual versus budgets. So you can kind of see we're incorporating actuals and budget details into this income statement. So again, if that budget information is coming from budgeting and planning, I know I may have to buy a connector to connect to that database, but that is, I can pull that data. If this format isn't quite what you need, you do have the ability to say manage. I can then pick the one that I want to edit and hit edit, and then I'm able to easily drag and drop. So columns, rows, spacers, just drag and drop, insert columns. Reporting trees, like your GL account structure, so those sub-segments that you have defined, represent specific locations, cost centers, departments, etc. Brands, you're able to include or exclude, those specific sub-accounts with the reporting tool. So you have easy way to modify the report should you need to. And again, if you're an Excel expert and you kind of want to do your own thing, we give you tools. So example, this list accounts, this will populate the actual GL accounts into my worksheet. I don't have to manually kind of copy them and paste them. I can just pull this list over and it will populate the accounts into the worksheet. Leave what I want, delete what I don't need. And then we even provide formulas that you can utilize. Now, it's not just as simple as dragging that formula. I have to go into that formula and tell it which rows and columns to look at. But we do provide tools that if you want to do your own thing, you can start from scratch and create a report completely from scratch and have some tools to make that a little easier. Questions?
No questions.
Now, in the BI tools add-in, I do want to touch on that. Notice the distribution settings. Specific reports, if reports need to be generated for and delivered to specific people so reports are available for specific people in the morning when they get in the office, you can actually set up, the recipient, who should be the recipient of this particular report, and use Windows Task Scheduler to schedule the generation and delivery, so that, every morning at 5 a.m. the report is generated, emailed, so when someone gets in the office, it's waiting in their inbox for them to review.
Okay.
Questions?
No, got that.
All right. Now let's see here. Any questions on General Ledger?
No, I don't have any follow-up questions.
Okay, so let me ask you this: as far as AR, accounts receivable, accounts payable, I believe. Let's see here. Was payroll something we needed to look at? Did I see that in the notes? I'm not seeing it on the agenda.
No, payroll is outsourced, right, Quinn?
Yes, it is at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you this: what do you think you want to look at? You want to look at accounts receivable, accounts payable, purchase order, and let me ask you this: I know, given that with purchase order entry, is that something that only someone in the office is going to have access to, or do people from properties need access to request purchasing?
People from properties would need access to request purchase orders. So our purchase orders, mainly all of our purchase orders, are submitted from people remotely out of the corporate office. So from our stores, they would submit a purchase order, then it's approved, and then the process continues.
Okay. So those people that they won't need to necessarily enter a purchase order into Sage 100 directly?
No.
Okay.
They would not need to. No.
Okay. All right. I just want to clarify, because I have purchase order entry, which is kind of geared for someone in the office, but there's some, depending on your needs, there are some web services, there's third-party web services. I think they rebranded, but it used to be called eRequester. So a remote employee could go into a web portal, basically request a purchase of something that could be routed for approval. Once approved, it could then be pulled into Sage 100 as an open purchase order.
Oh, that probably would make that streamline a little bit better than what we're doing now.
Okay. It's third party, I don't have it here. Brian, do you have links and information on that? If not, I can get it to you for them to review after the call.
Yeah, I can find something on that and get it out to you, Quinn.
All right, perfect. That's great.
What's nice is again, you can, provide specific access to remote employee. You don't have to give them access to the direct accounting system. They log into a web portal, they put in what they need to purchase. And what's nice is you can define budgets. They have to, their request has to be within their budget. And then that goes to that request, an approver is notified that request exists. And then once approved, it can be booked into Sage 100 as a purchase order, or maybe it's denied and it gets kicked back to that approver to, revise down the request or provide a reason they need that purchase, et cetera.
Okay.
So do you want to go through the customer, like accounts receivable, like a customer setup, a vendor setup?
That's not really necessarily my area, so I don't think for this demonstration that I need to go through that.
Okay. So let's see, what area do you do bank reconciliation?
Yeah, really on all the accounting stuff, I think our team probably has a pretty good handle because we're using Sage now. So I don't, and I'm not really on the accounting side. Like I don't have to enter those types of things. So if Kim had follow-up questions or needed that component, I could have set that up separately.
Okay. Brian, is there anything that that was discussed that we should go through so it's in the recorded demo?
I I don't think so. I think we touched on everything. And then Quinn, if there's something additional that maybe we didn't touch, we need to touch, just let me know. We can do another session.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Ron, I have Ron on the call. He does the 100 implementations on the financial side. So Ron, I'll turn it over to you if you have some questions for Quinn. You're muted, Ron.
There we go. Hey, Quinn.
Good morning.
So, do I understand correctly that you're not going to have any remote users involved with Sage 100?
Well, we would have remote users on the planning side, on the budgeting and planning side.
Okay.
But not actually entering data within the Sage 100 per se.
No, most of what I've seen today on that demonstration, our remote users would not be entering anything in there.
Okay. And so, do you have any inventory? Do you carry inventory and keep up with it in Sage?
No, our business is obviously, we're in the hospitality business, so it's hotel room. So no, we're not really carrying up any inventory that needs to be kept in safe.
Okay. And so, but you will be using accounts receivable. You do invoice your customers and collect payments and things like that.
We do, but it's pretty limited. It's on a scheme of things, it's probably very little compared to other companies. We are, probably 95% or maybe even higher than that, credit card and cash payment on the spot, like pay up front.
Okay. And you said you're already using Sage. Is that Sage 50 that you're using, or?
I believe so. Again, that's not my area of expertise, but yes, I believe that's what it is.
Okay. Well, as far as that goes, of course, you would want to have, what kind of detail would you want to have the data that you currently have in Sage 50? Would you want to have that brought over into a Sage 100 installation, other than your general ledger and your customers and your vendor information? Or would you want detailed transactions brought over, or just balances from a go live standpoint?
I would guess just balances from a go live standpoint, but I would have to defer that question to our controller.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. And you currently have a full server in operation within your office. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think that's all that I have, Brian.
Okay. Any questions around the different companies in the current Sage 50 install?
Well, I guess one thing, Quinn, do you consolidate financial statements between the different companies?
No, we do not.
Okay. And how many companies do you have?
There are 7 hotels and then management company, so 8.
Okay. All right. That's fine.
Okay. Well, very good. Quinn, I sent you over 2 emails, one with the sample crystal report that John was talking about.
Okay, perfect.
So you can take a look at those. And then I sent you over a link for eRequester. That's a third-party extended solution that integrates with 100.
Okay.
Let me know if there's an interest in that, and I'll get it priced out for you.
Okay, definitely will.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, thanks everybody for being on the call. John and Ron, thank you for your time. Quinn as well. And
I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll get this recording up to you within the hour, Quinn.
All right, excellent. I appreciate it. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, guys. You too.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.